So after watching Midway, I went and saw the highly anticipated Doctor Sleep, a movie that I've been looking forward to greatly since I've seen trailers for this thing. Full disclosure, for anybody who doesn't know, anybody knows me knows I'm a huge horror movie fan, and one of my personal favorite horror movies of all time is, you guessed it, The Shining. I adore The Shining. It's one of my favorite movies of all time, horror movies of all time. One of my favorite horror movies of all time, and also one of my favorite movies of all time, period. I fucking love The Shining. It's a goddamn horror masterpiece, in my opinion. It's still holds up to this day every time I watched it. It's goddamn, I love that movie. From Jack Nicholson's performance to Stanley Kubrick's directing, to pretty much, it's a goddamn great movie. And when I heard that they were going to make a sequel to The Shining 39 years later, I'm like, oh boy. And I before everybody gets on me, yes, I know it's based off a book that Stephen King wrote called Doctor Sleep. That came out, 2011? Even then, when I first heard the idea of Doctor Sleep, I remember hearing the plot synopsis, that sounds stupid. That's exactly what I said. And I remember that going in when I heard that they were making this movie. I'm like, I don't know about this, but I was like, the more I saw the trailers, I was like, okay, I'm on board. Ewan McGregor's involved, Rebecca Ferguson, Mike Flanagan's directing. Oh fuck yeah! Now that you piqued my interest, movie. You don't know who Mike Flanagan is? He is probably, in my opinion, the best horror director working today. Honestly, I would say there's 4 great horror directors that are making horror movies to this day. I would say they are Jordan Peele, Ari Aster, Mike Flanagan, and I know some people won't put this guy on this list, but I'll put him on there. James Wan. I think they're the 4 best horror directors alive today, and he's the guy who made the Haunting on Hill House TV series, which I haven't seen yet. He made Hush, the movie Hush, that's on Netflix. Go fucking watch it. I did a review for that a couple years ago. What else? He's made Oculus, which is a really highly underrated movie. The Ouija Origin of Evil. He's made everything he's made up to this point has been really fucking good. So I was really excited when I heard he was making this. Like I said, everything he's done pretty much has been gold. So I have high hopes with this. And yeah, this is one of my favorite. Just a full disclosure, this is one of my favorite movies of the year. I fucking love this movie. I adore this movie. This movie was awesome. This movie is 2.5 hours, and out of the 2 movies I saw that were 2.5 hours, Midway is 2 hours and 18 minutes. This movie, I had no problem staying awake. I was enthralled by pretty much everything I was seeing on screen. Never once was I growing tired. Midway, I was growing a little tired. But this, nope, not one bit. There was never one bit of this movie where I was enthralled. I was intrigued by everything that I was seeing on screen. I love this movie. Performances wise, this movie's great. Ewan McGregor as Danny Torrance, I thought was fantastic. Danny Torrance, you meet him as he is older now, and he's an alcoholic who is kind of a recovering alcoholic who is trying to pretty much hide his whole past with the stuff that happened with the Overlook Hotel and his shining powers and everything else like that. He's trying to put that in his past and just move on with his life, but he's drinking himself nearly to death because of it. And he's like Ewan McGregor is awesome. Obviously this was a movie that was kind of one of the most interesting parts about this movie, and I know I'm not the only one who's talked about this, but was that this movie had a tough distinction of trying to adapt a sequel to the movie The Shining and the book The Shining, because it's been well documented that Stephen King was not a fan of the movie version of The Shining, even though it's one of my opinion one of his best adaptations of any of his works. And a lot of people will agree with me on that. And because of that, like, you know, that this movie and that the original movie kind of made a lot of big changes to the book, and one of the big changes that they made was that, you know, Jack Torrance was an alcoholic. From what I was told, like, he was a more of an alcoholic in the book, and in the movie they kind of downplayed that, and Stephen King wasn't happy about it. So in this one, they addressed that a little bit in this movie, where he's going to AA meetings, Danny Torrance is, and talking about how his dad was an alcoholic. And even though that wasn't really established that much in the movie version of it, it's more played in here. And he's starting to slowly but surely become his father more and more, and he's starting to hate himself for that. Like I said, I love Ewan McGregor, and he's a great actor. He's always been a great actor. But even though he is easily one of the best parts of this movie, probably the person that stole this fucking movie was Rebecca Ferguson. Rebecca Ferguson is terrifying in this goddamn movie. There are scenes that are just gonna give me nightmares for weeks. Like, there's some imagery in this goddamn movie that I was just sitting there like, well, I'm not gonna be sleeping easy tonight. There's like, Rebecca Ferguson, man, like, she's this leader of this cult of people that basically devour children. I'm not making that up. Children that have, like, the shining abilities, and they basically pretty much steal their soul, almost, what they call steam, but they call it steam, and also take their powers and make themselves younger, or keep themselves young. And it's fucking weird, man. Like on paper, when you read, like, if you read out aloud this idea for this story, it sounds stupid, but in delivery it's fucking awesome, because you have people like Rebecca Ferguson, who's the villain, who is, goddamn, man, she is like just having a blast doing this, and I love her in this movie. From the first scene that you see her, which is like the first scene in the movie, she is great. She steals like everything. That scene with the little girl by the lake at the beginning of the movie is fucking creepy. It's a great scene, really well directed scene too. Like, just how the little use of sound there is at times, and like very little use of like music too, that also helped. God damn, man, there's things about this movie I just fucking adored. I also do got people like Cliff Curtis is in this, who's Danny, becomes Danny's friend that he meets during the movie when he moves into this little town. It helps Danny try to recover from his alcoholism. He's really a great kind of side character that you meet in this movie. I like Cliff Curtis. He's a really good actor, and he's pretty goddamn good in this. I also really fucking love that little girl in this movie. She was awesome. She had some badass moments in this movie. It made me like, she had some of the scenes. She stole a lot of the scenes in this movie. Like, she holds her own in this fucking thing. She's not just a vulnerable kid in this movie. She kicks some ass. Like, what she does to, like, Rebecca Ferguson in some scenes of this movie is fucking great. I loved it. I was like, she held her own, man. Like, as far as an actress, and she was really good. I liked her character a lot. I love that this movie, for the most part, is like, even though it's a sequel to The Shining, it's its own thing, man. It really is. It really is, for the most part, its own thing. And honestly, if you would have not told me that this was a sequel to The Shining, it was just something else, I would have believed you. Other than like that, the main character's name is the little boy in the original story. But other than that, like, and that, you know, I like that it delves more into like his powers and everything like that. That really were never really explored that much in the movie, but probably more in the book. I never read the book, but I'm sure it was more explored in the book. But in this movie, they explored a lot more of like the kind of mythology and what the hell goes on with these powers, and I like that. Like I said, this movie is its own fucking thing. I was digging the shit out of this movie. Like, I had no idea where the fuck it was going. Like, also, hell, they got people like Jacob Tremblay's in this movie in a blink and you'll miss it scene. He has the most memorable fucking scene in this movie. One of the most disturbing scenes in this goddamn movie. Oh, wait, take that back. The most disturbing scene in the movie. Fuck. Like, this is a movie that, like, I don't know what is up with Stephen King, but he loves to kill little kids. This movie has no fucking qualms in killing little kids. A lot of little kids die in this movie. There's just... Jacob Tremblay, fuck, man, what happens to him? Like, it's a lot of... With him, his scene, it's a lot of not showing you what's going on, but you just imagining it in your head just makes it even fucking worse. And it's like, damn, man, that scene was, oh man, I didn't realize that was Jacob Tremblay until after that scene happened. I was like, oh wait, I heard he briefly. I briefly heard that he was in this movie, and I was like, oh, that was Jacob Tremblay in this. But fuck, I said he was part of the most memorable scene in this fucking movie. Yeah, it's like, god damn, man. Listen, I love that this movie has the balls to kill kids off. Like, it's like with the It movies, the recent It movies, that movie had no problem killing kids off. Like, I give balls that Stephen King and, like, the filmmakers had balls to do it. Especially in today's culture. Now, why I love this movie, and I really, really, really do, and I'd recommend it, and everything else like that. If I were to complain about anything, it's probably the last act of this movie. I didn't hate it, but, like, I'm not saying that, like, I hated the last act of this movie because I didn't, but, like I said, while watching this movie, I'm sitting there watching this thing and going, this is a really goddamn good movie that stands on its own. And it's standing on its own without really acknowledging that much it's a Shining sequel, other than, like, you know, like I said, the main character's name and everything else like that. But then the last act of this movie decides to kind of just become the Shining's greatest hits. And I've heard, I don't think I was the only one who said this, but because, like, I knew going in, like, 'cause you've seen the trailers, it pretty much tells you they go to the Overlook Hotel eventually at some point in this movie. And that's the last act of this movie, is the Overlook Hotel. And I remember, like, oh god, it's probably where this movie's gonna go downhill. I was like, they're probably gonna, I was wondering, like, how are they gonna explain how he goes back to this hotel? It sounds like that sounds like a stupid idea. But they give you a good explanation. That's not the problem. But like I said, like, when he goes to the hotel, spoiler alert, there's like 5 minutes of him just walking around this hotel looking at iconic set pieces from the movie, like, and it's like, and then them briefly showing you scenes like from him, like, or Jack Nicholson fucking axing a door and stuff like that. And I'm like, really? You don't need to do this. Like, it goes on for like 5 minutes. I'm like, all right, I get it. That was a famous scene. That was a famous scene. That was a famous scene. Don't have to fucking tell me. I saw the movie. I've seen it millions of times. And then, like, he goes to the bar that his dad went to in the original. And there is Lloyd, but it's a really weird looking Jack Nicholson lookalike. Like, they did a pretty good job of getting Jack Nicholson lookalike. It's like, I forgot in the original that character Lloyd was supposed to be kind of a version of Jack Torrance. And, like, at first I was like, is that the guy trying to be Jack Torrance? But they're like, no, it's Lloyd. I'm like, oh yeah, I guess it is true. But even though there are scenes where parts of this movie where they flash back to scenes of, like, The Shining, and they have this lookalike playing Jack Nicholson, and it's really fucking weird. It's like, why don't you just show the original scene? You don't have to fucking mess with it. But I was like, yeah, that was really unnecessary. But then, like I said, and then, like, there's some things that happens towards the end of the movie that just keep going, like, where it felt like I said, like, just too much of, like, the greatest hits of The Shining, and it really felt unnecessary. And I was like, man, you didn't really need to do that movie. But there's still some really awesome stuff in the last act of the movie that I forgave it and didn't get too pissed off about it. Sorry, my fucking phone's blowing up. But yeah, I wasn't really that pissed about it, but it's like, that really wasn't necessary, but whatever. I highly recommend this movie. Fuck, this movie is awesome. The fact that this movie's not doing well at the box office pisses me off. It really pisses me off. God damn it. Like, Terminator Dark Fate not doing well didn't really piss me off that much. This does. Like, this really does. Like, we got a good fucking sequel to The Shining, and it didn't do well. Fuck you. So, yeah. Yeah, I highly recommend it. Go fucking see it. Support this fucking movie, please. I recommend it. Trailers. God damn it. Uncut Gems. This is that new Adam Sandler thriller that's coming out. That looks fucking amazing. Where he's like the seedy, gambler-esque jewelry guy, or jewelry thief or jewelry collector or something like that. I don't know what the hell it is, but he's like this really seedy asshole. Like, and I'm like, it looks awesome because it's something different for Adam Sandler. Like I said, I bitch about Adam Sandler all the time to people. Like, when I bitch about him, I mainly bitch about his terrible comedies because I know this guy's a good fucking actor, and this proves it. Like, he's getting like. People are talking about Oscar nomination for this performance. That's amazing. Like, just talking about Adam Sandler and Oscar nomination in the same category is amazing. And I really want to see it. Like, I've heard really good things about this since it's premiered at like film festivals. And then the last trailer I got was the new remake for The Invisible Man. Man, does this look awesome! I'm actually really looking forward to this. So. They're remaking The Invisible Man with Elizabeth Moss, and it's directed by Leigh Whannell, the guy who wrote the original Saw movie. He did one of the Insidious sequels, and he directed one of my favorite movies of last year, Upgrade. And this remake is where Elizabeth Moss is a woman who's in an abusive relationship with this like scientist who she decides to leave and like escape from him in his clutches, and then right after she escapes from his clutches, he commits suicide and leaves her like $1 million or something like that, $5 million, $50 million or something like that in her name. But he's not, even though he's dead, he's also a ghost and invisible, and he is like haunting her and taunting her and like messing with her, and like it looks really good. Like, I'm really intrigued. Like, they're going a whole different direction with The Invisible Man than like the original story, and I love that. At least if you're going to remake it, you're not just doing a copy and paste remaking the original story. So I love that. So I'm interested in how this movie goes. So I'm looking forward to it, man. This sounds like that looks like a really cool idea. Leigh Whannell's directing it. I'm actually intrigued, like, how he does with this movie. So yeah, that's as far as trailers go. Go see Dr. Sleep. Yeah, Midway's fine. What's coming out this week? We got for some reason we're getting the Current War now, even though it's been out for a month. We're finally getting it. Even though I haven't got stuff like Judy and shit like that, gotta get the Current War in. I'll be seeing that. What else is coming out? The Good Liar, Charlie's Angels, and Ford vs. Ferrari. So those are 3 decent movies that should be pretty good. So until then, I'll talk to you guys later.